So when is the Tesla stock going to stop falling and when will it finally turn around again? Let's talk about all the potential catalysts and the events that must happen before the stock can rebound. Joining us to help us do that is Randy Kirk. Randy is a best-selling author. He's written 10 books and a serial entrepreneur with 20 businesses under his belt. So he's in the middle of writing a trilogy of books on Elon Musk and Tesla. So his books, The Elon Musk Method and The Elon Musk Mission, have both already been published, and he's in the process of writing the third book soon. So, Randy, welcome and tell me, do you have the knowledge to tell me what needs to happen before we see the stock rebounding again?
Yeah, it's
Please.
been a tough year. Been a tough year. Everybody's feeling it, and boy, it really has shown what can happen emotionally when people have been riding the wave and thinking they're geniuses, and all of a sudden they're not such geniuses when things are going the opposite way. But I do have a take. My take is, as usually happens, my take is quite a bit different than everybody else's. I will give some credit for the current the current price of the stock to things like the Twitter purchase and the sale of stock. But I mean, to give an example, yeah, sure, Elon took some money off the table. That means there's less demand, dollars chasing a static supply. But generally speaking, that works its way out over time. There's a point at which that money gets replaced by somebody else's money. So these are transitory. They might be very good news headlines that cause a momentary emotional reaction, but they have nothing to do with the fundamentals. And the fundamentals couldn't be better. I can't think of a way. People that are sitting there complaining about Elon Musk, I can't think of anything he could have done last year that would have been better than growing the company at 40% in sales of automobiles, over 45% in production of automobiles, and that doesn't count all the other divisions that are growing and doing better in a rough year. And no company of this size has ever grown that fast consistently in history. So people are putting down Elon, and I'm wondering, how can you put this guy down when you've got those kind of metrics to look at? I'm sorry,
Okay.
I can't figure it
I
out.
will have to interrupt there because I had the exact same thought and exact same feeling,
Yeah,
except until January of or 3rd when we saw the delivery numbers. So here's what I was going to ask you, right? In
yeah.
the end of 2022, in the last 3 months, when he bought Twitter, Tesla stock fell dramatically, right? It was doing okay with the macro environment. It was falling just like all the others, but it didn't fall as much. Then it fell just outsized fall, free fall since the end of the last 2 months. Why? Is
So
it because of
okay.
Twitter and
Mhm,
Elon Musk?
mhm.
Is it because of China demand, concern of what's coming in China demand? And is it because of is it macro? Like Elon and
Yes.
others are still saying that the last 2 months was also because of macro. What's your take on that? What would you ascribe to it? What percentage on all those three?
Yes, yes, and yes. The
Okay.
macro was certainly, I think, the biggest part of it because there's a definite risk-off environment. We were at 1,200 when there was a risk-on environment. Everybody was, go, go, go. Let's take some risk here because it looks like it's going to go to the moon. Right now, we're in a risk-off environment. People are like, no, I'm going to put my money in treasuries rather than take a risk right now. I'll wait.
Yeah.
I'll wait till I think it's a bottom. I'll wait till things are on the way back up. I'm not interested in risking my money right now. So you have the risk off environment. You have the end of the story of a story stock. And when I say the end, you have the end of the first chapter or the end of the first book of a story stock. So Tesla has been a story stock for the last at least 4 years. And the story got interrupted. The story got interrupted by a lot of things. But when the narrative changes, you overshot on the first the first leg. You overshot. 1,200 was crazy. 1,250 was crazy. That was an overshoot. But
Yeah.
when you've got that kind of a story stock, then you're going to overshoot on the downside too. And I think that's where we are right now. The current value of the stock on the market to me, and I've been watching the stock market. I don't even want to say how long, because then it's going to give away my age, and nobody wants to know that.
Yeah.
So let's just say since I was 17 years old, I've been playing the stock market, And I've never seen a stock in my entire life that's been more undervalued with a greater potential than Tesla right now. Nothing close. There was a couple of times when Apple was in this position, a couple of times when Amazon was in this position, but nothing close to a company who has a trajectory of growing their profits at over 50% a year for as far as you can see. And it's $100 a share. And I mean, it's valued at these numbers. The PE is 17. It just makes no sense.
Yeah. Okay. So you drive it to all three.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Uh, so the big one is demand, right? So you're saying that you just last statement you just said was it's still going to grow 50% every year for next several years. Well, there's some people who are now saying, well, it's not going to do that this year in 2023. And so they're pulling off. They're saying that it's fairly valued as a company, as a car company. It's perfectly valued today, which really bothers me because it's just like you just said, because I don't believe that's true. But what's your thinking about first of all, macro and then demand. Those are the two things that need to
So,
happen first, right?
so unlike a lot of the people that are in this space, a lot of people that are doing YouTubes or a lot of people that are on Twitter and whatnot that are pundits, I'm one of the few that is actually a marketer and has actually been a manufacturer. So while I'm a micro version of Elon Musk, I actually
Right.
was doing 5.5 million in sales as a manufacturer, selling on 4 continents. Was the category killer in my category, by far the number one in my category, and I was also a marketer my entire life. So I look at the current situation and I say,
Mm.
great, bring it on. We're going into a recession. Fine. This will be a great time for me to kill some of my competition. One of the books I wrote is I was in the bicycle industry most of my life. One of my books is titled "Bicycle Dealer's Guide to Getting Rich in the Recession." So, starting a company in a recession, starting a new product line in a recession, taking advantage of your cash pile and your massive pricing advantage and your margin advantage in a recession, you can absolutely destroy the competition. And I just put up a video today titled I Was Wrong. And the reason I had to do that is I did not think price would be the first place that Elon would go. Based on what he did at PayPal, I thought the first place he would go would be other kinds of marketing. He would go to incentives or promotions or some kind of methodology to test to see whether he really needed to drop the price. But I think what happened is that those things would take too long, and he needed a shocker. He needed a headline. He needed something that was going to just absolutely uh, make all the competition go have a very very bad night. so
Yeah.
so I think that's what happened. I now think that there will be layering on of marketing ideas, of marketing approaches. He's never even advertised. This is a company that has been growing 50% a year with no advertising at all. Word of mouth and Twitter, that's about it. And so a Super Bowl commercial, I mean, why not? Apple did it. Um, Taking some commercials that would appeal to Elon, like on safety or on the value of not having to fill your gas tank, or on issues of global warming, or even just improving the environment and creating sustainable energy. I mean, it doesn't have to be lying, as he said about commercials. No, there's a way to do it that I think Elon would appreciate,
So
and
can you market your way out of a recession? So in a recession, right? We just reported recently that interest rates is what most people think that rising interest rates means that people can't afford high asset that
right,
there's finance,
right,
but we've shown that actually auto financing rates do not actually have a correlation with reduction in car sales. The US car sales typically hover between 14 to 17 million a year, but it can fall down to 8 to 12 million depending on during a recession.
right,
But that's not because of the auto finance rates, it's because of a recession.
right.
Macro and recession, people get fired, they don't have time, they can't afford to buy these things. So in that environment, people are going, okay, we're going to expect to see sales fall. You're saying that you can reduce price, which we know we saw this one statistic and we reported it on today that a 9% reduction in price could actually have a 50% increase in sales.
Mhm, mhm.
It's like massive price elasticity.
Right.
But you're saying that you can also market your way through a recession? Hard for
Yeah.
me to
So
believe that part, but
yeah. So what happened? What your situation is in a recession is if there's going to be less total units sold, and you want to stay the same or grow, then you're going to have to take it away from the competition. Now, the best case is you take it away from ICE cars.
yeah.
Well, the federal government just in the United States just gave us a $7,500 advantage over ICE cars. So any advantage that we used to have, you just pointed out, that price difference is going to make a huge difference in people making a decision of an electric car versus an ICE car. Well, then you need, but you can't not market something like that. One way or the other, you got to get the word out that the Tesla is the car that they should buy using
Okay.
that $7,500. All right. And I can have a pile of gold sitting in my living room right now, and I want to sell it for $1 an ounce. But if nobody knows that I've got a pile of gold at $1 an ounce, it'll just sit there on my living room floor. Somehow you've got to communicate the fact of your huge benefit, of your
Mhm.
value added, of your key bullets, if you will, your headlines of why people should now buy a Tesla with the $7,500 savings they're going to get. Now that's going to be different in every market. So there's a difference in China. The prices dropped in China, not in the United States. So there's a marketing difference in China right now where he wants to sell more cars. And I think he wants to send a message. He wants to send a message to BYD. He wants to send a message to other startups that are eating 1,000 cars here or 5,000 cars there. And he wants to send a message to the Chinese government. Don't mess with Elon.
Yeah. All right, so let's go through the list there. What do you
Okay.
think needs to happen for the stock to turn around, right? So clearly macro can't be ignored. The macro needs to turn around somehow. Otherwise, maybe none of these catalysts matter. But that's what we saw in 2022. We have a whole list of things that show the company continued to grow in milestones, didn't impact the stock price at all. In fact, it fell significantly.
Right.
So you do agree, right? Macro needs to turn around before anything happens, or do you have a
I
comment on
think
that?
that the macro turning around, and when I say the macro, what I'm talking about is just the risk off, risk on.
Right.
Okay. If you have everybody hiding their head and not willing to take any risks, and it's really, really hard. However, the other thing becomes true over time, and that is instead of a pile of gold in my living room, I've got a pile of dollars and I've got them on the sideline. I've got them invested in treasuries at whatever
Yeah.
number. I've got them invested in bonds. But man, I'm starting to itch. That's not good enough. I really want to make 10 times. I really want to make 2 times. I really want to do something that's going to really make a difference. And so the itch starts to happen. And this is the tendency of markets. The itch starts to happen on the people that are sitting with money on the sidelines. They want to put it to work in a better way. So I think there's a point at which, and these are some of the catalysts that I think could do that. There's a couple of them in particular that I think are extremely strong that would all of a sudden cause people to say, oh my gosh, no, it's not a car company. It is a car company and an energy company and a truck company but in particular, those three. So right now it's a car company, according to all the pundits. But all of a sudden we find out that we have this little thing called Lathrop. But 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, Randy Kirk was the only person talking about it. It was in the book that was released on October 27th. It talked all about Lathrop and all about what was going to happen at Lathrop, but nobody else was talking about it. And then Zero Sum Game 33 came out a few weeks ago and did amazing reporting. Oh my gosh, I was so impressed with his reporting. And then he had a couple of other guys, I can't remember their names right now, who also came back and went out and did the drone shots and whatnot to kind of prove the reporting. Now, even Gary Black has said, okay, this is a thing. So in the course of 3 or 4 weeks, we've gone to energy not being a thing. So anybody that was buying the stock 3 weeks ago because they knew what was going to happen in energy, they had an arbitrage advantage. They had information knowledge that the street didn't have, that most retail investors didn't have. And buying then against this future Lathrop ramp was a huge opportunity. Well, those opportunities start to materialize. So now Gary Black says, oh, it's a thing. Well, does that mean now that some of the other guys will start saying, oh my gosh, if Gary Black thinks it's a thing, we need to look at this and potentially put it into our plan? Well, I'm looking at it as being $3 a share next year. I'm sorry, $3 a share of profit next year.
Yeah, earnings.
$10 billion in earnings, $3 a
Mhm.
share in profits, and if it's that big, you're talking about something that's bigger than if they were opening the Gigafactory in Berlin tomorrow. It's
Yeah.
bigger
No, yeah,
profit
I
than Berlin.
saw the zero-sum games analysis, and I got to dig deeper into that. But what was interesting was he was saying that it could be 100 to 300 billion dollar business within 3 to 5 years or something.
Easily.
That I hopefully I'm not wrong with that, but which is the current valuation of the company right now. So if you need to see megapacks growing over this year, may not be enough for this year, but it will certainly start to show that this is finally happening and it's
But if you
working.
have a second, let's say the second quarter, let's say by the second quarter, maybe even the
Okay.
first quarter, or the first quarter, either December's the year end, where we have the earnings report in a few days, or the end of the first quarter, and we get that earnings report. At some point, the numbers are going to be there in the earnings report. Are the questions going
Yes.
to be asked? In the question and answer period, and at some point, it's going to be obvious if this is truly a $10 billion profit per year for one location,
Yeah.
okay, for one plant. And you could put one of these in Shanghai and another one in India and another one in Europe. And they're not the same as building these car plants.
Yes.
They were ramped within 14 months of
It
turning the
was
first
ramped
phase.
very quickly,
Yeah,
Lathrop.
right,
Yeah.
right. So the potential for this is mind-boggling. So
Yeah.
that to me is a catalyst that
Okay. That one,
even in a bad economy, it's going
yeah.
to double the profits potentially within 2 years.
It will change the PE ratio. That's the thing that was compressed the most. And the
Right,
PE is now to the point where people are going, it's fairly valued because it's equivalent to a car company. As soon as you show Megapack energy is something, then it maybe it changed the PE. And then what's interesting, as you just said, is that in March 1st, they're going to do their investor day.
right,
And they talked about having the I can't remember the exact words, but something about, the future of these so I think it's beyond just gigafactories. They're going to do mega factories everywhere,
right.
and that could be the catalyst to change the narrative of the company as a car company to become an energy. And then we've heard Elon say, right, he said that it's a kind of like unlimited infinity,
Yes,
because if you can't sell cars to consumers because of interest rate, because of margin, great, we'll take those batteries and we'll make mega packs, and
exactly.
that can be sold to utilities, and that is like there's already a 2-year wait list for that, and so
Yes,
now we just sell as much as we can, and let's focus on that.
and
Higher margins,
yes,
easier sales.
one of the things that's been holding back the solar industry has been the availability of batteries. And a second thing that's been holding back the solar industry has been a slightly high elevated prices. But the price of the raw materials for solar has dropped, and the price of solar institutional or utility level solar has dropped by 30% this year. And so now massive numbers of solar farms are being built. Massive numbers of wind farms are being built right now all over the world, and they're all going to need batteries. And basically, Tesla is so far ahead in providing these potential batteries, but they need, and they could build these factories as fast as, I mean, it'd be crazy. They just put them up.
Okay, so that I can see changing the PE ratio
Right,
even during a macro. What
right.
else? What else do you have? What else can happen this year, earlier this year if possible, to stop the bleeding?
Okay, so the second thing would be for people to recognize the truck business. I don't even have that on my list
Sure.
because that was actually my co-author Brian Wong who took a look at the truck business and goes, "Oh my gosh, let's think about the truck business for a minute. If it's 300,000, 350, most people are saying that it'll probably end up being 300, 350. You're talking about 7 times, 8 times the value or the gross dollar amount of the compact car that everybody's dying for. Everybody's waiting for the compact car. Well, if you're going to build 50,000 of those in 2024, 50,000 times 6, 7, 8, you're talking about another Berlin. Okay. You're talking about just the one output of 50,000 semi trucks is worth the same as opening up another Berlin. And that's just for the trucks. Every 5 to 10 trucks, we're not exactly sure where it falls, you need a mega pack. okay, because you can't be drawing that energy off the grid. So you need a mega pack for every one of those. And if you have the mega pack and the power, I'm sorry, the mega charger that the companies have to buy, you probably also want to buy the solar so that you can provide the energy. So Tesla comes in and they get all of that for these trucks that they're selling. So now that becomes a completely different story. And Brian has shown over and over and over again. I asked him the other day. I said, "How do you decide? Can you build 500,000 trucks in 5 years or 3 years, or and also build 25 Lathrops in the next 5 years, and also build Model 3. I mean, the new compact car platform. Can you do that as well and get that up to 2 or 3 million cars by 2025, 26? Can you do all these things at the same time? And which one would you do first, second, and third? Because each one of them is a $1 trillion business in themselves.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. We all know the long-term story, okay?
I'm just
Many of us
talking
have
about
not changed.
I'm talking about
Let's talk about
easy.
this year.
I'm talking about
This
easy.
year,
Okay, but
okay.
if people recognize the truck value, again, nobody's paying attention to the truck. Nobody is valuing the truck. Nobody's even doing the multiplication.
So well, tell me about that. Right now, it still seems to be on track that sometime mid this year they're going to launch Cybertruck. Let's say
No, no,
it's
no,
delayed
no,
by three
no. I'm
months.
talking semi truck.
Oh, Tesla Semi. Don't. Okay, okay. I got
I'm
you
sorry,
guys now. So
semi truck,
Semi came out, and you're
right?
saying that that alone, it's going to be enough this year. Do you think that there's going to be enough ramp up? I mean, I think I've seen James Stevenson's forecast for how many sales. It's a lot more than we all thought it was, but is it going to be significant? It's like it's for the next year. It's a blip.
So
It's
if you
not quite there.
so if in 2024 you're going to build 50,000, and by the way, Elon is wrong on a lot of stuff, and his estimates are wrong on a lot of stuff. They're very seldom wrong on production, except for something like the battery, where the chemistries and everything are so complex. But most of the time, when he says this is how many we're going to produce, he's darn close. So if
Okay,
you're going
so
to make
you're saying
50,000,
Tesla Semi could be a narrative change in terms of Tesla stock this year?
so let's say it's 25,000 this year, or a run rate of
Well,
35,000 by the end of the
right.
year.
Yep.
That's a game changer. Multiply it times 7, because it's 7 times as valuable as a Model 3 in terms of dollar sales, and it's probably more profitable. And then you add on the mega pack that goes with it, and the mega charger that goes with it, and possibly some solar to go with it.
All
Okay,
right.
so
All right.
it's a huge
Interesting.
opportunity,
Okay.
and
I thought you were
nobody's.
referring to Cybertrucks. Okay, so I mean, clearly Cybertrucks, we agree, is something that's going to be people calling that recession proof, recession buster, that even if in a macro recession, there's enough of a reservation that they're going to still sell the numbers that they need to sell the second half of this year as it launches. And it's going to be a sizable contributor to the margin. Yeah,
Yes.
what's your thinking about Cybertruck?
Yes, Cybertruck. I mean, obvious to me, it's as obvious. First of all, they've got enough semi-truck reservations to last forever too. They've got enough mega charger reservations to last forever, and they got enough Cybertruck. So, I mean, I don't know where everybody's getting all sad. It's like, no, the Cybertruck, there's no way that they're not going to sell out of that unless it's a bomb. I
Sure.
mean, unless it comes out and the first 100 people that review it go, oh, this thing's nothing like what we thought it was going to be. And that's not going to happen. So, no, it's going to be however many they can make, they're going to sell them, and they'll be
Well,
$100,000.
I think the concern that people have right now is that they're some people, right?
Yep.
The bears.
Yeah.
The funny thing is the bears have actually become are now bullish,
Right. Right.
but it's the ex bulls that are
Bulls.
the most
Yes. Yes.
bearish now. It's crazy, and they're saying some of them. Their argument is that macro environment, all the sales are going to fall, margins going to fall, uh, s- uh, uh, deliveries are going to fall, right? Just nobody's going to be buying this thing anymore. And so the stock price is going to continue to fall for the next year, if not even longer. And even with a Cybertruck, in addition to it's not enough to counter the sales. Now, a lot of us are still saying, no, we still think it's going to be 1.8 to 2 million sales next year
I
of
think it's going to
deliveries.
be 0.5.
You still think you're still bullish despite a macro environment. You still are predicting a 2.5 million delivery next year because of the margin levers that they have, the demand levers that they have, the margins, the Cybertruck. What? Yeah.
So let me give you. I think I can do it in 1 minute.
Yeah.
In the United States, you've got $750, $7,500 off a car. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just no way that's not going to have a massive impact on demand. People are going to want to grab a hold of that, and there's going to and this recession that we're in is the weirdest recession we've ever had. Anyway, we just had 300,000 more jobs last month.
Well,
It's just
yeah, that's backward looking. That's why people are concerned that
yeah, but it's
next year's gonna
300,000 this last month. Anyway, 300,000 more jobs. Yes, I think there's going to be a recession. Undoubtedly, the Fed wants us to have a recession. I've got a whole nother story on that I want to tell someday. But there's in this particular environment, if you drop it down to 10 million cars in the United States, then I'm saying that a million of those are going to be from Tesla. And it's going to be because they're electric, and it's because they're cool, and
yeah.
because they're safe, and because they're cheap because of all these things. And then the demand levers that can be pulled in terms of pricing or incentives. I think they should give everybody $1,000 for selling your neighbor, not 1,000 miles, $1,000 if you sell one to your neighbor. And you don't have to own
Mhm.
a Tesla to get it. Anybody that sells a Tesla to their neighbor gets
Yeah.
$1,000.
Yeah.
I think that would work. I want it $500 in China, but $1,000 in the United States.
Well, I mean, so there's two contrary things that Elon has said that there's going to be a massive recession,
Right,
that there is going to be a demand
right,
reduction. So you have to kind of agree with that. But on the other side, he said that we're going to do everything we can to increase sales to
right,
to just keep up with sales.
right,
There's also statistics that show that in a massive recession, 2008, it's gas guzzlers where it fell from
right,
40% reduction from 17 to 10 or
right.
12.
Mhm.
But hybrids did very well that year. In fact, that was the year that they took off. So there is an argument to be made that EVs will do fine in a recession. Tesla will do okay, but there's going to be a reduction. And and so yeah, I'm not yet sold that it'll be 2 million
Well, no,
sales.
I'm saying a million in the United States. So I'm trying to take it by category. So I'm saying the million in the United States to me is a lead pipe cinch. I don't see how you don't sell the million in the United States. That's all you can make.
Yeah.
That's all you can make, and you're going to sell every one of them. A few of them will be exported, a few S's and X's, but basically all the United States. Then you're going to have 10, 15, 20, 25,000 semi trucks, which are actually worth 6 times that many in terms of total sales. And then you're going to have 10, 15, 20, 25,000 cyber trucks, which will add, again, much more than a Model Y or Model 3. They're going to be like $100,000 for the first 6 months, probably, because it'll be all the high end ones. So I don't see anything. I don't see how the United States doesn't get the numbers. I think they'll get the numbers. The Europeans, they're only going to make 330,000. That 350,000, that's all they're going to make in Berlin next year. That's my number, and a lot of people are lower than that. I'm saying they make 350,000. They'll be able to sell 350,000 of those cars in the marketplace where they're already predispositioned to buy energy, the EV cars. So I think there's not going to be any issue in Europe. The Northern European countries, which are the ones that are most excited, have the least to worry about in a recession. They're in pretty good shape going into the recession. You can export them to new countries out of the European Union. So there's all kinds of potential there. So that brings us to China. China's the most difficult one. But what people are forgetting, I think, on China is
Mm.
that all Model 3s, all Model Ys sold in Great Britain are made in China because they're right-hand drive.
Mhm.
Okay. Any place there's right-hand drive, it has to be made in China. So all those exports coming out of China are going into those markets. Those markets need more cars. They're dying for cars. Australia has
Yeah.
just barely begun to get cars. They have not hardly had any cars in Australia year to date. I mean, up until now. And finally, they're getting a few cars. They're gone as soon as they get there. So Australia is a huge market that they can continue to supply. New Zealand, not nearly as big, of course, more sheep than people, but it's still another market that has not been getting cars. Japan, well, they haven't been getting any cars because there hasn't been any demand. Okay, well, you go to Japan and you create demand. You go down to Japan. That's where you spend your marketing dollars because there's no reason that those cars shouldn't be selling in Japan except marketing. South Korea, huge market, growing market. They love the car. They just opened Turkey. They just opened Thailand. All of Southeast Asia is available. Um, India, Indonesia, South Africa is not opened at all. No cars going to South Africa yet. Argentina is the ninth largest car market in the world. No cars going to Argentina yet. So if you can't sell them all in China,
Hmm.
start opening up these other markets. And that's what I
Mhm.
see happening already the last couple of months with the Thailand and the Turkey.
Okay, so if they can show in sometime this year that the demand is not falling as fast as people are expecting, and if they can show margins are not being impacted as much, and we reviewed that a separate show, all the ways that margins
Right,
may not be impacted at all,
right.
then that's good. What other catalysts? You're getting me all excited again. I'm trying not to get
So, so
excited.
the
I gotta
catalyst,
like
so
temper. No,
the catalyst would be that at the end of the first quarter they show
yeah,
500,000 shipped and 500 plus thousand manufactured and 500,000 shipped. Or the second
delivered,
quarter they show
shipped, or
six
what are you talking about?
shipped,
Delivered,
meaning sold,
sold, yeah,
500,000
delivered.
sold at
Yeah.
the end of the first quarter. Okay, the second day of April, the report comes out. They sold 500,000 cars.
So it's a growth from 400,000, but
Right.
maybe people might go, "Oh, that's, recession's still to come," like it's
They
always
might,
delayed.
but I think that number would be pretty. That would be pretty
Pretty
impressive.
expressive.
Okay,
Okay.
then a 600,000 at the end of the second quarter. Okay, now you start to say, okay, it's not going to be 1.8, it's not going to be 2. If it's 500 and 600, we're already 1.1. We're at least looking at 2.2, maybe 2.3. Now that Cybertruck's
Sure.
coming out, the semi trucks are rolling out.
People get
2.5 is my
excited
number.
again despite a recession.
2.65 is my perfection number. 2.5 is my kind of, yeah, why not? And 2.3 is it can't be any lower than that.
We looked at a poll that we did on Twitter,
Right, right.
and we asked people what's your delivery number for
I know.
2023.
I know.
50%, 48% basically said it's 1.8 to 2 million,
Yeah.
and then 25% said it was higher than 2 million. 25% it was going to be lower than 1.8 million.
Yeah. And you didn't put
Um,
mine in there. You didn't put higher than 2.3.
Okay. Well, my point is that you're kind of like at the bullish part here, but I
Sorry.
love it. Love it. That's okay. All right. So okay. So keep going. What else?
Okay. So let's see here. Well, the increase in profits. So right
Margins.
now people are saying,
You're
well,
saying, wait, increase in profits?
increase in
What?
profits. Yes.
It's
Historic.
people are freaking out that there's gonna be a massive reduction in profit. In fact, some people are going, do you know what Leah from Tesla Economist said? There's gonna be zero profit. In fact, the potential loss that we're gonna have to shut down gigafactories that we have running now. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Crazy. That's not what's gonna happen, but
Well,
okay.
the first earnings report that we're going to have is going to be on the 25th of January. It's coming right up.
Mhm.
Okay. The earnings are going to be way more than a 50% increase over 2020, 2020, first quarter of 20. Uh, how can I say this? The annual profits are going to be dramatically higher than the previous year's annual products. The quarter to quarter is going to be dramatically higher. Everything's going to be dramatically higher. It'd be by far the best earnings they've ever had. And that'll be in a very tough quarter. And people are going to say, well, gee, that's pretty good. And then let's look at the numbers. What are the numbers they're actually selling now? Oh, well, they're still selling everything there. Well, yeah, the margins might be lower, or are they really? So now you got the question starting, because remember, it's a story stock. So what is this? When the story gets disrupted, that's part of what a catalyst does. It disrupts the story. So if the story is, oh, sales are down, oh, profits are going to go down, oh, margins are going lower, oh, it's a crash, uh,
Yeah.
it's a crash by the side of the road. But then all of a sudden the story starts getting disrupted, a little here and a little there and a little over here, and
Yeah.
the macro starts to change a little. All of a sudden the
Wow.
story
So you're
starts.
confident that after the first quarter earnings release, they're going to actually not only show that maintaining sales, but they're going to actually show a strong earnings.
Yes,
How is
very
that
strong.
possible if they're doing price cuts that's being absorbed by margins, which is good? So the margins might stay flat, and then the other margins, I think if they can show good margins from the mega packs, then that's
Yes, yes,
contributes to that.
right. All right, so
Okay.
let's see. I think that there's going to be 1,000 Optimus robots built by hand next year.
Okay, that's
And you don't,
pretty out
I know
there.
you don't think that that's a catalyst, right?
Well, so yeah, two things. One is I am the most optimistic person there is, and then unfortunately, sitting beside you, you're making me look like a pessimist. Uh, a lot of people just highly doubt the Optimus bot, and not. I think it's going to be revolutionary. It's just that it's not something that's going to happen this year. So, in fact, I did not even put it into my 2023 milestone list yet. Um, because they had a demo last year, which is great. And now having a bot is not a catalyst. The re and it's surprising, like whenever something comes out with a fantastic, wonderful demo, oh my
Right,
God, this is going to change the world. Let's
right.
say the iPhone. Steve
Uh-huh.
Jobs goes up,
Yep,
shows the iPhone
yep.
2007. What do you think happened to the stock?
Nothing.
Nada.
Yep.
It took 4 years till iPhone 4 before the investing world go, oh, this is a deal. People like us recognize it. We got all excited. Oh my God, this is going to change the world. And
Yeah.
it did. It's all correct. So
Right.
we invest.
Right.
Doesn't do anything to the stock that year. So you can have a Tesla bot demo, did nothing.
Mhm.
And you might, to hit for them to show 1,000 bots next year would be amazing feat, man-made, but having some budget, people are just going to discount it. Like, oh yeah, it's just a bot, yeah,
Well,
whatever. It's
so
like
so the key
Amazon has that in their factories.
the
Big
key
deal.
the key is the key is not to make 1,000 bots. The key is to make 1,000 bots, and they're in use cases,
Yeah,
and they're already starting to be able to teach each other, through the
yeah,
neural net.
yeah,
And you're showing them in use cases, and you're making a videos. But he said he was going to come out with,
yeah.
updates, and you're showing them in use cases, and they're getting more and more useful, like month after
Yeah,
month.
unfortunately, like I'm saying, you and I would love it. We would invest in it, but institutional investors like Gary Black already
Oh no, I'm
say
not
that
worried about you. I'm not
unless it's a
interested.
line item that's actually generating actual revenue that they can then forecast out because it's already being sold and making money. Before that, they don't include it at all. It's
Don't
all
care about those
wonderful.
guys. I care
Yeah.
about the retail
Well, because
investor.
they set their earnings. They set the earnings, and then the earnings, they set the expectations, earning
Right.
expectations, and then that's what changes the stock.
No, no. So
Nothing else will change the stock.
I'm saying I want the retail investor again. I want the retail investor to get
Okay.
excited. So the
All right.
retail investor starts to see use cases and starts to see that they're growing and becoming more and more useful, and better, looking more like they're just normal old walk around robots. Because there's a big difference between the iPhone.
Yeah.
We already had a cell phone that we were using, and it had some smart features. The iPhone was just a better form factor. The Optimus is a complete game changing piece of equipment.
Okay.
And I will tell
That
you,
would be amazing
yeah,
if that's true. Because I think you're right. If we actually saw robots that are actually useful with different use cases, that could spark the imagination of the retailers who then get excited about, okay, if they have money, if it's a
yes, if they
macro
have any money
environment,
left. Yeah, yeah, that's always the issue.
they're not going to do it. Okay. So that's exciting. I still think it's a big, yeah, that's a
Yes,
big throw into there. Who knows?
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
We'll have to see how.
Okay, 4680. The 4680 needs to hit, I would say, my number is, I put it in here, 12 gigawatts per quarter run rate. I would love to have that announced at the earnings report in January, that they're at 12 gigawatts per quarter as their run rate. So 48 gigawatts, so but roughly half of the eventual expectation for the 4680 line. That I think would be, because I think more than any single thing that I hear from the bears is, where's the 4680? If they don't have the 4680, they can't make trucks, and if they don't have 4680, they can't make that.
Yeah.
And blah 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 blah. There's not going to be enough batteries to do all the things they want to do.
Yeah.
So if we change that story, that huge story, and all of a sudden they're at 50% of productive capacity. Now, maybe that's the second quarter. Maybe it takes the second quarter for that to happen. But I think there's a point at which the production is good enough that the story changes. And it's like, no, the 4680 is a thing. I would couple that, hopefully, with the beginning of ramping at Berlin. So I think that there's going to be a level at which Tesla says we're doing good
Yeah.
enough in Austin that it's time to start the line at Berlin.
Okay, well, I have the same answer, which is that would be amazing if it happened. I don't know if saying that alone is enough. What needs to happen, what people need to see is its impact to earnings. So only when it shows up in earnings, and hopefully not clouded by other reasons why the earnings would fall, then that's when people would, like you said earlier, if earnings could maintain this flat thing, that's what will change the stock. Otherwise, it's like it's still this mythical thing of how is actually being benefit or not. But okay,
Yeah, well, so there is a problem at Tesla. The number one problem that Tesla has, in my opinion, is that they're now a conglomerate. So it's, when you have a conglomerate, it's hard to watch all the moving parts. This is going to be a problem going forward. It was a problem for General Electric. It's been a problem for many, many companies over the years. And when you have all these moving parts, it's hard to like, okay, this is what's going to make it happen. This is what's going to make it happen. But the truth is, in my opinion, is that Tesla is a battery company. Sure,
Yeah.
they're a technology company, but they're a
You're right.
battery company, and they
Yeah.
just put the battery in different hosts.
Yeah.
Okay, and so if they can get the ramp going on the 4680, I mean, when they're at 100 gigawatts per factory, if they got
Mm.
100 gigawatts going at Berlin and 100 at Austin, they're going to be maybe the second largest battery lithium ion battery manufacturer in the world. They'll just be
Mm.
behind CATL.
Nice. Okay. We have just a few short minutes
Okay.
here left.
All right. Okay.
Let's go to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second megapack location announced. We talked
Yeah.
about megapacks, but it's one thing to have one megapack location fully
Yeah.
ramped with
Yeah.
$11 billion in or $10 to $11 billion in earnings. If they announce a second location, or they announce that they're going to expand Lathrop to 100 gigawatts instead of 40. I'm sorry, not yeah, to 100 gigawatts instead of 40 gigawatts. I think that would be because anybody that pays any attention to that and does the math, it's going to be like, oh my gosh, that will impact earnings rapidly.
Yeah, and I think March 1st they're gonna announce it already. I
You think
suspect
so?
they're gonna announce a couple gigafactories plus, if not even one, maybe multiple megafactories. And if they do that, that's where the narrative changed, like you said.
Okay,
It's
all
like,
right,
okay, they're actually planning to, Master Plan Part 3 is about energy, not about cars only. And if they announce even more mega pack factories, uh, because now that they have Lathrop under the belt and it's already mass producing, it could change the game. And
now
if they
here's
can change the game in terms of the concern about batteries, like you said, because there are bull bears who are so worried about, who are saying that there won't be enough
right.
batteries. In fact, yeah, again, it's like some people are going, there won't even be enough 2170s. Like, what? We heard Zach Kirkhorn say last year that this is
We have
2023 is the first year that we do not have a concern for hitting battery supply
right,
constraints. But the problem is that their reputation has been hit
right,
because he was the same person who said that, just under 50% deliveries. And so now
right.
people are like, whatever, you know,
You know, in a down market, the story is broken.
yeah,
The optimism is gone. The risk
yeah,
is off, and everything starts. The energy is just gone.
yeah,
The sadness is in. People that made their $1 million or their $5 million on Tesla stock have now lost back half of it, and they're sad because they're only worth 2 million instead of 4 when they started out being worth 50,000. So I don't feel sorry for them at all. And I think that when your emotions start running away, instead of doing the logical math, just do the work. Look at it as a business, not as a fairy tale.
yeah,
It is a business, and you've got a guy who has never missed. Sure, he could miss this time, but he didn't miss with his first company. By the time he's 30 years old, he's got $180 million in his pocket from 2 startups. Then he starts a rocket company that didn't miss, and he started a car company that didn't miss. Nobody's done that. Nobody's ever done a rocket company that was successful, and he's the first one in 100 years to start a car company. Are you really worried, people? Are you really worried that some
yeah. No, I don't think, like I
recession in
said,
23 is going to mess things up?
no, no, I think most of us are pretty strong about 24 and onward. Is that people are concerned about 2023. The stock has literally fallen 70%,
Yeah,
right? And some people think it's gonna even fall more,
yeah,
which I'm not in that camp. But it can, people think it's gonna fall more, and they're just writing off 2023. It's
right.
a terrible year, demand is gonna fall, all that stuff. Nobody's concerned about 2024 and onward. And so
Well,
that's why I keep trying to bring back the conversation to what's gonna happen this year. I want to quickly just go
sure.
through Dan Ives'
Okay.
his to do, his things that he needs to happen in 2023. Just read them out really quickly. So, new chief executive for Twitter. Elon has to stop personal sales of stock. Um, they have to give conservative delivery targets for EVs instead of the 50% growth target, because having that is great, is exciting, but it also, when they hit 40%, people are going, no, they're falling, they're failing. He needs to show that he's refocused on Tesla, not Twitter. They have to do a delivery target for Cybertruck. They have to show that there's going to be delivered, the timing is going to be out there, that it's going to be, how many numbers are going to be produced. They have to show, he's thinking that they need to make changes to the board of directors. Um, they have to issue stock buybacks. and more of transparency on the margin structure for Tesla so they can kind of, again, like what you were saying earlier, if they can surprise on the margin, that could change the narrative right away. Um, don't do any more political issues on Twitter. And it was kind of fun and interesting today or yesterday when Elon sent out that tweet saying, "Should I stop being political on Twitter?" Who knows what he'll end up doing that, and then a comprehensive strategy for Twitter. So this article was written I think a couple weeks ago when Twitter was still the big thing. I think it's a temporary thing, Twitter, and I do think that it was a huge impact to why the stock fell. But then now it's no longer that necessarily. It is now about the macro and the demand, and that's what people are concerned about. So I think that you're right that in Q1, if they are able to show kind of a sales numbers that are pretty decent, they can show margins staying strong, that could be the beginning. And then you're talking about energy, if they can show something to do with energy or the March 1st kind of like plan, maybe that could change the story a little bit. Any kind of other comments on that?
Yeah, just as I was listening to the list, about half of them had to do with some failing on Elon Musk's part, the board of directors' part, that they
Yeah,
somehow failed in 2022. If that's failure, I want to know what success has to look like. What do you have to do to be
yeah,
successful in a difficult year? Three difficult years in a row. You've grown 50% a year every year on average,
yeah,
more than 50% in 2021, and now almost 50% in 2022, and definitely a ramp to do it in 2023 and 2024. If you look at it as 50% average per year, even the bears are saying that it'll be 1.9 or 2 million. That's almost 50% right there. So what
yeah,
do you have to do in order for people not to say, you're a failure, you need to be kicked out of office, we don't need you as CEO anymore, kill
yeah.
the board, throw those guys out? What do you have to do to be successful in America in 2022?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I am so upset right now with the people who are, yeah, it's like because the stock fell, then your premise and all that has changed. And I'm like, that's crazy. But then let's talk about whether or not you're right. Is there a dramatic decline in sales and right in demand? And can Tesla figure out ways to stem the fall, margin, all that in the story? But everything else looks fantastic still, so I'm not worried about it. But 2023, yeah, what is it going to take for it to fall to rebound from where it is now? It's like 100. It's being valued as a car company, and so I think your points. We'll see if that happens, but that would be the ones that could change narrative. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
PE
I think
ratio
so.
needs to change. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Randy. Appreciate this. It's well thought out. I appreciate that you're very optimistic, and we need that to counter the negative because obviously things have gone way too far at this left, and so some people are not ready to hear the optimism.
Hey,
Um, yeah,
when everybody is running with, covering their head, that's the time to buy. So
yeah, no, I think everybody understands that concept, right? Buy now, buy now.
yeah,
But I think there's a huge group of people who have already put in all their money and
mhm,
seen the fall,
mhm,
and they're upset with the buy
yeah,
now people because, yeah, I would know, I get that, but I don't have the money, and it's fell in terms of valuation.
mhm,
And then there's the people who truly lost money, who
yeah.
really lost money, the margin people and so forth. So you know what I mean? Like the people who are cash rich and still have cash, of course, buy now, right? It's like the rich can get richer because it's
But
a
mo
recession.
but most people don't, quite frankly, because fear and greed, those are the 2 drivers, and people can look at these prices right now and go, "No, they're just
Right.
going lower. No, I can't. I'm too afraid to invest at these levels."
Yeah,
And no, they're much more likely to invest when it's back to 1.2,
exactly.
and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I need to get on before it's too late," and then,
So
so
last question for you then. I mean, the falling knife issue. Are
yes.
we at the falling knife still, or do you think that we've hit the bottom? And yeah, what's going to happen in the next 3 months?
If I were to give you any kind of an estimate of
Yeah,
whether we are at the bottom yet, somebody would have to cart me off
yeah.
to the loony bin
There you go. Good. So you're
because
not so crazy.
I've already predicted the bottom at least 5 times. I
Yeah.
picked the bottom in 2020. I mean, I got it on the nose. I
Really? No, you're being
I made
truthful?
so much
Yeah.
money. I was a genius. I couldn't predict the
Okay.
bottom this year if it was if my
Yeah.
life depended on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody
But
could
I would
predict
well,
tomorrow.
but having said that, wait a minute. But having said that, good investors make decisions based on the potential downside risk versus the potential
Right.
upside risk,
Exactly. And we're there for sure.
measuring those. And
Correct.
right now, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Easy decision. Easy decision.
Correct. Agreed.
Yeah.
Wonderful talking to you again, Randy. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
friend.
it.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.